Hi, hello, namaste viewers. How are you all doing today? Welcome to SQ TV. Myself Bhavna, welcome to my live show for today. We have a really special guest with us. Sri Vijay Balanji had his violin training in Indian classical music from Srimati Alamelu Subramaniam Garu of Mumbai and vocal music from Sri Madurai Sundar Garu. He has worked with all leading stalwarts in the Carnatic arena, including Dr. K.G. Yesudasji, Sri Balamurni Krishna Garji, Srimati Sudha Raghunathanji, Sri Shankar Mahadevanji, Dr. Flute Ramani Garu, Sri Ravikiran Garu, Sri T.N. Seshagopalanji, and others. He has performed extensively all over the world and was invited to perform at the United Nations in Paris for the last UN meeting of the century. He has also represented India in many cultural festivals, including the Festival of India in the USSR and the Middle East. He is also a graded artist of AIR, that is All India Radio. Besides being a performer, he is actively involved in teaching this art to many students. He is a regular invitee to numerous universities as an ambassador of Indian classical music. He was awarded the Best Teacher Award in North America by the Cleveland Festival, which is the largest Indian classical festival in North America. This award was in appreciation of his years of service for the propagation of classical music throughout North America. Academically, he holds a master's degree in computer science and an MBA in finance. We welcome you to the show, sir.
It's my pleasure.
How are
Thank
you
you.
doing?
I'm doing good. Hope you guys are also doing good.
Yes, sir, we are doing fine. So please tell us how music has become a part of your journey. What age have you started?
So I started just like most kids do in India. I started very early. I had a good environment, musical environment in my home. My mom is a singer. Most of my mamas and mommies were singers. So the environment was very conducive for learning music. My sister also learned music, which means there was always some kind of music going on at all times. So I started to learn vocal singing first and then violin at the age of 6 from Srimati Alamelu Subramaniam in Bombay. And then progressed through, and then I also had an opportunity to learn from Sri T.S. Krishnaswamy in Shanmukananda Sabha for a brief time before I came to the United States for further studies. So, and of course, just like any form of classical music, you have your formal training that you have to go through, and the informal training is where you listen to concerts and you learn from accompanying various artists, what did they do right, where can I improve. So that's a lifelong journey, right? But the formal training started very early when I was 6.
That's really nice. So tell us something about your gurus and what is your takeaway from them in life?
Well, my first guru, I'm going to talk about 3 of my gurus. Firstly, Srimati Alamelu Subramaniam. She was more than a mother to me, right? And my mom, as I said, was also an integral part of my learning experience. She was the one who actually made sure I practiced every day. I practiced all the fundamentals. I did not rush through, right? She used to put talam for me for every song I played, right? So my mom is my first guru and will remain my guru for life. Srimati Alamelu Subramaniam was the person who actually initiated me, taught me all the fundamentals of violin. And it was her humility, right, that I learned that whatever you do, you have to be humble in life. That's what I learned from her. Then once I came and learned from Sir T.S. Krishnaswamy sir and Shanmukananda, he was a person who spoke very little. So I would play, he would say Vashi implying play something in this ragam, and I would play something for 10 minutes, hoping that he would say good job or sabash or something to acknowledge. But oh my God, it was nearly impossible. So most of us in the class, and we were 3 or 4 of us, we would always try to see how we could at least have him, instead of sitting like this, where he would actually acknowledge that we played something good. In fact, that was it. So it was very difficult for us as students to gain appreciation from our teachers. And that was with good reason, because what I realized later in life is if you get appreciated for every small thing, then it becomes a way of life. You want appreciation for small achievements where you forget what the bigger achievements are. Then I had an opportunity to learn from Sri Madurai Sundar, and I mean we are almost the same age, but I look up to him as a brother, as a mentor. Musically, I don't think so. I have to go through multiple lifetimes to achieve what he's achieved. Academically, he went to IIM Ahmedabad. Musically, he's a student of my Manasika Guru, Sri T.N. Sheshagopalan, who, he's one of the people I talk to very frequently, because he's not only a musical mentor, he's a mentor for me for life also. And what I have learned from both of these individuals is you have to have a clear understanding of what your priorities in life are, right? We were talking about, how do you manage music? How do you manage family life? How do you manage your professional lives? For many, it is just one of three, right? And what I have tried to do is to have a good balance between all the buckets, as I call, right? I want to do very well professionally. I want to have a good balance where I spend time with my family, with my kids, my mom and dad, and also musically, if I can do reasonable justice, I think that will be great. So I think these are all things that I've learned from them, looking at them, talking to them. And the only thing I get asked about this by a lot of younger kids. When I say younger kids in their teens, early 20s, who have just finished up. I mean, most of the kids that I interact with are academically brilliant. They're from the Harvard, Stanfords, MITs, University of Michigans, and the most singular question I get from them is, if I do music, I cannot go for my workout. If I do my workout, I cannot get my A's. If I do this, I cannot do that, right? And I think this is a lesson for everybody, that you have to take a step back and ask yourself, what are your priorities? And if it was that easy to define your priorities, everybody would be doing that. But that is where you have to search inside your soul and define those things and be successful, and then drive towards excellence in those things. So I know it's a long drawn answer, but hopefully it kind of helped my perspective in life.
No, that is really to what you said. I mean, the balance actually is what everyone misses in their life. As you said, they can't find that. Striking the balance is what they say. So anyway, we are talking about it. So, you did masters in computer science and MBA in finance. So how did that happen? How did your interest get into that when you're like from childhood, because you're in music? So how did you decide to do that?
Well, I was always interested in computer science, right? So in fact, I wanted to do a PhD. So I first enrolled for a PhD. I finished my master's, and then this is one of those things that happens, I guess, a lot. At least my advisor, he called me and said, again, coming back to, he said, you really need to think if a PhD is the right thing for you, right? And I asked him, why do you say that? He said, you might be somebody who will do very well in the industry. At that time, in the early 90s, doing a PhD, it meant you will take an academic position in a good university, you will get tenure, and then you're set for life, right? He said, your outlook is one where you want to do different things. What you did yesterday, you get bored with it today, which is true. I never realized that until he told me. So he said, if that's what it is, you need to have breadth and depth. He told me this about 25 years back, and I'm still in touch with my advisor. And he said, you need to know a lot of things, so don't stick to one, but in the areas that you like, like finance. I used to love finance. It's what I do for, as I was telling you. Uh, Go deep into it and become a master in those, right? Learn as much as you can and don't stop the learning. So I guess that is what drove me to do my computer science, right? And then I worked for some time for General Motors, and in fact it was GM who kind of forced me to do my MBA. So, in those times, well, I shouldn't say in those times. It's only been 20 years. They actually helped you. They would say, you don't need to come to work for this amount of time. Go do this, and they obviously take care of everything. They help pay for the education. They will set you up with mentors. I mean, it was unbelievable how the work environment was. So I've been lucky, but at the same time, I've been very focused on what I need to do. So hopefully that explains
Yeah,
my journey.
yeah, I think our viewers would have learned something from this because people think that once we are in something we have to always only do that. So as you said,
Yeah.
this is a great example for them. So you have learned from the age of 6. You have mentioned. So what age was your when did you give your first performance?
My first performance, obviously, as I said, I grew up in Bombay. So most of my initial performances were in Bombay. It was at the age of, if I remember right, it was at the age of 11, and I used to give small solo concerts, and then I started to provide accompaniments because that is, in my mind, more difficult to do. Playing solo, even today, I feel I can be ready in 3 seconds. It's not a problem, right? But accompaniment, it requires preparation. Everything requires preparation, but depending on the main singer, you got to think about, it's like going for an exam. You need to kind of figure out what could be in the question paper, right, and prepare for that. So I started to accompany by the age of 13 or 14. So, as I said, that is where you learn because you learn new ragams that you have never learned. You get exposed to different ways of Kalpita Sangeetam as well as Manodharmam Sangeetam, where you can be any creative person will really enjoy it more, right? So there is information coming to you from different sources. So it is your ability to grasp those data and then make the best use of it, right?
That is really true. So, what are the most interesting collaborations you have done till now? Like you remember forever. There might be many, but still something.
Interesting collaborations is the first big collaboration is when I accompanied Sri Naidunmari Garu. In my mind, he was such a consummate singer. He was down to earth, and he was the one who actually forced me to understand that when you play Kalpanaswaram, he said you should keep it to one tala avartanam or less, right? And I still remember this was maybe 30 years ago. He sang Ramananu Brovara and Harikamboji. And I hope I have that recording. This was, I believe, in New York. And he said, I am going to sing Kalpana Swaram. And he sang maybe 50 avartanams, 50 cycles, different cycles of one cycle each. And none of them were the same. And he said, this is what I meant. And it was a live concert. And he said, this young violinist here, he didn't even know me at that time. It was my first, but we were talking and he made me sing and he was highly impressed. He said, I wanted to put him to a test. So I think that was a great collaboration initially. Then I have been working with one of my idols, because my parents lived in Kerala. We have been hearing about Sri, we call him Das Etan, at least I call him Das Sir, KJ Yeshudas Sir. God-given voice, humble to the core. Oh my God, this man is, I've got the opportunity to work with him for almost 25 years now. and it's so much fun, right? I mean, you are 2 feet from away from me, from him, and the kind of funny things he does, and so it's each person is so different, right? Then I've also been very fortunate to be working with the Cleveland Aradhana, um, and what that provides me is an opportunity to guide and mentor young kids, right? Where you have to be the mentor instead of being mentored, because one of the things, at least parents, and I'm not going to pick on parents either in the US or India, because I'm not sure how it works in India nowadays, right? Is there is an urgency for everything, right? I need my kid to start learning on day one, and day 15 he should be performing here, day 20 he should be in Harvard. I mean, these things don't happen that way, right? So it is the collaboration with the teachers, with the kids, with the parents to ensure that the kids are doing the right thing, working on the fundamentals, focusing and practicing the right thing versus just saying, I can sing 10 kirtanams. And, that's not the end game. The end game is, do you realize the fundamentals that make you sing one kirtanam properly, right? So it's not easy, because that is not the mindset, right? So, but since you asked about experiences, that is one thing. Then in the last 20 years, I've been very fortunate. Yeshudas ji and we had an opportunity to play at the UN. I've worked a lot with Sri T and Sheshagopalan, as I said. That man is something else. He's in outer space. And every concert I play, I think it's like learning something for 1 year. That all his concerts are minimum 3.5 to 4 hours, right? So you're physically exhausted, but your mental thing is you're just because of the wealth of knowledge. And then after dinner, he will come back and say, "These are the 15 places you didn't play properly." I'm like, okay. And he knows every little mistake that you have done, and he will take, just because I think I have so much respect for him, he takes liberties with me and says, "You didn't do that, Dad. You didn't do that right. You didn't understand this Kanaka." And then, he's one other great individual. I work a lot with Shankar Mahadevan. We started our kindergarten together. We learned together. And I think by the time we were 18 or 20, we must have performed, I don't know, 200-300 concerts together. So Shankar, myself, we used to practice every Sunday. No excuses. We would sit down. We would try different things, but it was fun. And I don't see that happening in this current generation, right? We will get to it when we can, right? And so the fun factor is not there sometimes, I feel. And there's been others like Ravi Kiran and all extremely brilliant individuals, which they bring different aspects of Karnataka Sangeetam to the stage, right? One is, how do you address a ragam? How do you approach it? Ravi Kiran has been a big proponent of Utukadu Venkatasubbaiya's songs, besides all the things he does. Right, so the list is endless. I've been very fortunate. But these are, I could probably go on and on. But these are some of the guys I have a lot of fun being around. We can talk as normal individuals without any intimidation, because these are guys you have known for a long time, right? But the current generation, I listen to them a lot. I mean, they are so buttoned up, as I would say in corporate America. They know everything about everything. You want them to sing a Nada Pallavi, bingo, they have it. You want them to sing something in Ahiri and a Ragam and an offbeat Talam, they have it, right? So I think the current generation, people who have made it, when I say made it, are performing artists, they have really put in a lot of effort, which is, So hopefully, again, it's a long, drawn answer, but hopefully it addresses what you were trying to get.
Absolutely. I mean, working with those legends in music. I mean, here in India, or you have done so many international concerts and so many like Jugal Bandi, whatever they say, collaborations.
Yeah.
So, I mean, reaching such a level, every musician or maybe every human being, faces some challenges. So, did you, as a musician in your life, face any challenges to reach in this level?
I'll tell you this with 200% surety. It doesn't matter where you are in the journey, you have challenges.
Oh,
And funny you ask this because this is a conversation I had with Ravi Kiran maybe 15 years ago. And I think we were doing a concert and we were sipping coffee. He's a coffee guy, just So I had gotten him coffee, and I said, Ravi Kiran, so இன்னைக்கு என்ன மெனுல என்ன, implying, what are you planning to play? So he said, oh, there is this Pallavi, there is this four ragam Pallavi. I actually remember the Pallavi also. Then I said, Ravi, I mean, it should be no big deal for you, right? I mean, you can just rattle these things off. And he said, you know what? I have to tell you this. People say I'm a prodigy and this and that. And he says, the more success you have, the more you have to work hard. And at that time, musically, maybe I wasn't there, but I could relate to it from a corporate America perspective, right? As you become senior and senior and senior, people think your life becomes more easier. In fact, it's opposite. The expectation of what you would achieve becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. So which means for you to sustain at that level, you have to work harder. And if you just work hard on the things you have, it's not going to get you anywhere. You have to work harder on things that you have not worked on. So remember I said breadth and depth. So when I heard him say that, all those things came back, right? So all of it relates back, whether it's music, whether it's your job at work. If you keep doing the same thing for 30 years, I can assure you are going to be at the same desk doing the same thing with the same dress, right? So if you want to move up, you have to do different things, different ways, bring innovative ideas. But I hope it answers your question. It is just not me. You can never feel that you know it, because the more you learn, the more you realize you really know nothing. And that's absolutely true statement, right? You actually realize, oh my God, there are these, it goes on and on, right? There are so many good composers, so many ragams, so many pallavis, so many kanakas, it's endless, and especially in music. Right?
Yeah, that is true. I mean, to sustain in that level, you have to work harder and also keep learning all your life. Yeah. So, which is your favorite ragam that gives you joy or bliss? I mean, which is it?
So I am an instrumentalist also, besides being a vocalist. So instrumentalists are a different kind of animals, right? They like, and I can speak for most violinists and flutists together. There are some ragams that if you play even in the middle of the night, if you're sleeping, it'll give you joy. Right? I can rattle off few of those ragams. Kamas is one, Behag is one, Bindumalani is one, Kapi is one. But there are certain ragams depending on, again, this is my personal interpretation, depending on how stressed I am. I might pick a ragam like Danyasi or Bilahari, or that Thodi is one of my favorites. But those all require more effort. I mean, that's not to say the others don't. You get instant gratification when you play one line of Behag or Kapi. So your stress level, so it makes you feel better. But again, some of this is personalized, but I would think those 10, 15, 20 ragams, I would say, is across the board. Most people like.
It's really nice. So, who is your inspiration in life and why?
Oh, that's a difficult question. I would say true inspiration would be my parents, my dad and mom. And I'm not saying this just because I have to. Again, my dad grew up in very difficult environments, and he made it. He was very successful at what he got at, right? And he was probably the single most inspiration for me growing up because he used to be very hardworking, very focused on what he was doing, and he didn't understand music as much, but he would always come back and say, "Did you practice?" Right? So he wanted to make sure I was doing the right things, right? But my mom would be there. She would make sure, as I said, I practiced, making sure that I did all the right things. And I mean, they live with me. I am one of those lucky guys where my parents still live with me here in the States. And even today, if I am, I have my own music room that I don't want to be disturbed. And if I'm playing something that I learned 20, 30 years ago, which she taught me, and if I'm playing something wrong or if I missed one sangati, I can hear her footsteps coming and I know I have done something wrong. Right? And she will open the door and give me a look saying, you forgot something. Right? So these are the kind of people that they are. So I'm very blessed and very lucky to have them around.
That's really beautiful. I mean, I'm right now also like trying to teach you and tell you what you're missing. That's a great thing anyone can have.
Yep.
Yeah. So you were also awarded the best teacher award in North America. Can you tell more about it?
Yeah. So as I said, the Cleveland Festival is the biggest musical festival outside of India, right? I mean, I remember in the mid 90s, late 90s, it used to be a 1-day festival, 2-day festival where we would, get together, sing the Pancharatnams, and kids would sing a Tyagaraja Kriti, right? And fast forward 15, 20 years now, it is more than 15-day festival. It starts at 8 in the morning and goes up to 11, and we have more than 150 main artists coming from India to Cleveland every year, right? So, and I'm very fortunate to be involved with Sri Sundaram. He's another very big factor. He's a big inspiration for my children. And I keep telling him that, in fact, I keep joking that my daughter talks to him more than she talks to me. So, which is true because he says things in a way that kids can relate to. My kids are a little older. My daughter is in University of Michigan in Ann Arbor doing neuroscience, and so when she's stressed, her first call is to Sundaram Mama, not to me. But that's great, right? There is other sources of avenues. But anyways, when you coming back to this award, so what I have been doing is, as I said, making sure we can propagate Carnatic music across all states. So wherever I go, there is always kids who are saying, what should I practice? How should I practice? What are some data points I should be looking at? So things I was saying, they don't take shortcuts, focus on the fundamentals, and of course, performing concerts, propagating music to non-Indian communities in various major universities. All this takes a lot of time, right? It is very easy to say I don't have the time. But it is for those efforts that I was given that award. It's been a while. I think it was 2008 or 2009. So.
Okay. That's really nice that our Indian classical music is going leaps and bounds in US.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So they say that actually violin is a Western classical instrument, but not actually a Indian. The first kind of instruments like veena or tambura, something like that. So what is your take on it? What do you think?
So violin was initially used for dance performances. The tuning is different. The instrument is the same. The string is the same. The way you hold the bow is the same. So what we have been able to do is retune it to our Indian Carnatic style, right? From our EADG Western style that we play to pasa pasa, right? That's the tuning for our Carnatic, on the violin at least. And it's most optimum that way. Right now, at least in the last 15, 20, 30 years, you have seen violins with 5 strings. There's a lot of improvisation, innovation going on. But this instrument has slowly transitioned from being a Western instrument to being an hardcore mainstay of the Carnatic concert paddhati, right? It was used in Harikathas previously. So it's not an instant transformation, it's been a metamorphic transformation. So that's my take on it. But the only thing I would want to add is what I have learned in the last 20 years, because being here, uh, people who have exposure to Western music or learn Western music um, have a distinct advantage, whether it be in the way they hold the bow or the way the fingers are kept. There is more clarity. So if there are kids who are, we schools here provide an opportunity to learn music in school. So I encourage kids who are learning violin to learn Western violin in school as well, because it helps them. So they are very complementary in nature.
Okay. So, fusion music, as we were discussing, fusion music has gained tremendous popularity like recently. So,
Yeah.
how does that work in violin? And
Well, violin is just one channel for fusion, right? And fusion works in different ways. It's what is your interpretation of fusion, right? Is it just somebody singing, say, Sindhu Bhairavi in Hindustani and me playing Bhairavi in Carnatic, or is it truly that, or is it each other trying to trample on each other and trying to do some Hindustani thing and the Hindustani artist trying to do some Carnatic thing? I mean, it's sometimes and this came from T.N. Seshagopal when we were talking, since you asked that question. He said, in the fusion, confusion apannade. Right? What it means is you can do all the fusion you want, don't create more confusion than what you have to, right? But coming back to your question, it is, in my mind, your interpretation of how you would address a ragam. Is there an opportunity for you to be innovative on the rhythm side, on the melody side, and just be open about it, right? You don't have to be. The whole idea of trying to innovate is not be set by boundaries. Keep it open. Be open to new ideas, and if something doesn't stick, it's okay, right? Half the things that got innovated were failures, so not half. I would think 90% of all things we are experiencing today were failures the first time, the fifth time, the 10th time. So that is why you see new instruments being played, and not all of it seems perfect to the ear, and that's okay, right? To each his own. So I'm a big believer in that. There's always an audience for something. So keep innovating and go from there.
yeah, that is a great answer. So, how has the generations, changed in the field of music? Like you have been in the music field since six. So till now, how has it changed? The way they pursue it, or the students, you can say, who are learning or who are interested in these instruments or vocal.
Well, I'll give you a generic answer. I won't split it up into vocal or instrument, violin or veena. I mean, the pain points are the same, right? And I'll keep my answer specific to North America because, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, there is I hope you've heard about this bell curve. We use this a lot, right? So I'll say a 20%, a 60%, and a 20%, right? And it's a bad analogy, but I'm going to say it all the same, right? So the 40% is where the 60% is where the general masses, right, of students who kind of learn because either a sister is learning or mom said go learn something, and the kids are like, okay, I might as well go to class and come back. The practice levels are minimum, right? It is just to keep yourself afloat. So your incremental improvement will be minimal, right? But they will be hopefully the perception is, something will, incite them to work harder as they get better at something. But usually they plateau off, right? The 20% to the right are the people who will make it. So if you look at people who have really made it here, People like Sandeep Narayan, like Ramakrishna Murthy, these were all, they were, uh, these are at least there are multiple people, but these two people come to mind. Sandeep and I go back a long way. Um, are people who did the right things the right way with the right amount of inspiration from the right people and parental guidance, right? Remember I said parents want their kids to start learning on June 1st and July 1st they want their R&A term. Yeah, not literally, but getting away from that mindset of, I need to be quality based than quantity based, right? If we can have that in the masses who learned music, and I'm saying across the board, be it Carnatic, Hindustani, jazz, fusion, whatever, focus on quality, I think we would be well served or better served, right? And coming back to the left side quad of 20% who, at least in my perspective, if I find that they are not doing the right things, I make it a point to let them know, you're probably better off learning chess or doing something else that excites you versus wasting your time, because you're wasting your time, you're wasting my time, which I don't have, right? So that's a very difficult conversation to have, but I think it's the right conversation to have.
Yeah.
Right? So.
So, as we were discussing, like you're told that quality is more important. So many students aspire to be, at a place which you are now, working on par with great musicians. So, what qualities or what makes an artist go to such such heights? So, can you share something with our young viewers who are trying to be that?
Well, this was a funny question you asked. Last week I got asked, what does it take to become a CEO? So this child, well, he's not a child, he's doing his PhD at MIT. So he said, and he always reaches out and he asked me, Uncle, I have aspirations to be a CEO. Similar to what it is. What does it take? The first is your desire to be successful. You should have inside you that I want to be something, right? If you have that, then the next thing is, let's say in this case, either be a top level violinist or a top level vocalist, or I want to be senior management in a big automotive giant or pharma giant or whatever it is. Once you have that within yourself that I'm going to achieve this, you got to figure out what does it take, right? And this is not a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year journey. This is sometimes a multi-decade journey. I would say a minimum of 15, 20 years if you need to reach the pinnacle, right? Then you try to figure out what it takes to be there. Because now you have the desire, you want to be something. Then you figure out, okay, I need to have 10 things. I need to know this, and this. And I know only one. I need to know these 9 things. Just not know breadth and width, right? Comes back to that same thing. Because guess what? There will be lots of people with 5 things. There will be lots of people with 8 things, but they will not have the depth. So if you want to be successful, you have to have the breadth and depth, have the ability to say, these are the things that are needed to be successful to reach my goal. And then work towards that, right? And while you're working towards that, you always have to have that balance. Family, professional life, and whatever other aspirations you have, be it music or chess or golf or, whatever, make sure. So once you have that, I think when I talk to a lot of very successful people, the approach might be slightly different, but the overall approach is very similar to this. Have it within you and then drive towards what you want to achieve. It's never easy. One thing I will say is, it is never easy. And you will have multiple failures. And it is in you to, once you have fallen down, to stand up and start walking again. Right? So,
I think that was very inspirational. And it, as you said, I mean, it's not only just music, but it applies to all different.
Everything, anything that I talk in music applies to your professional life. In fact, I use it shamelessly when I talk to senior leaders. I tell them I'm into music, these are the things I do, and this is how it relates. And instantly they are able to correlate the two things, right? So it's very easy
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
get your arms around it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. So, do you think the generation now, which is there, are they losing interest in classical music and all that? What is your take on that?
See, it's different. 20 years ago, 25 years ago, the platforms were minimal or non-existent, right? We had two channels, right? If you look here, there is maybe 2,000 channels, right? There is avenues to sing and share your skills, God-given skills in multiple ways. So I think that has helped in keeping the interest alive in most kids. So that is why, on an absolute numbers terms, maybe there is a lot more kids learning music. But if you ask me if the level of effort that we put versus say what a kid will put now, it's the same. There is no comparison because we had to really work hard to get someplace. Here you don't have to work as much to get say a slot in a TV channel because there is so many more avenues. I'm not saying it in a derogatory fashion. I'm just saying it is useful for the kids, but the kids and the parents have to be smart enough to say just because I was featured in Doordarshan for a 30-minute slot doesn't mean I've achieved anything, right? There is a lot more to learn. So don't forget the learning part. The learning part is lifelong. So I would say you have to look at it from be smart about it and never stop the learning, right? That is what I would recommend and make sure. But hats off to the kids in this generation. I think they are focused, right? And you can see it from the number of just if you look at the number of kids here in North America, it is amazing. It is amazing how many kids are just fabulous, fabulous. So it is a very, and I keep telling all my peers, it's time for us to move aside. The next generation has come. So guys, let's kind of give these kids no need for us to perform. We should be encouraging all these 16, 17, 18-year-olds who are exceptional in what they do.
So, I mean, you've been teaching from how many years, and how did that start? I mean, getting into teaching part.
Teaching actually was an offshoot of performing, right? When I still travel a lot. I used to travel like crazy before. So it was a natural progression from playing to teaching. So I've been teaching for a long time, I would say almost 30, 35 years now. I used to teach a little bit before, but not seriously. But now it is an opportunity for me to interact and get the ideas of the younger generation. And I thrive on that because the way, and it's just not music, the way they look at things, the way they look at life might not be in the same wavelength as I have, but it is definitely something I have to think about, right?
Yeah.
So it was a natural progression. Again, it's not easy. It is a big time commitment. But as long as it is enjoyable and gives me a feeling of achievement, of doing something positive, I'll keep doing it.
That's really nice. So, I mean, with the current conditions, we all are going through this COVID-19. So, how have you been dealing with that in teaching your students?
So COVID has put a monkey wrench in the whole equation, I would say. I mean, everything is online. Personally, I might be in the minority here, but I'm not a big proponent of online teaching. I think there is something always lost. But having said that, it is a good substitute when you don't have anything else. And that's all it is. It's a good substitute. You can never replicate life lessons with your teacher, right? But having said that, coming back to your question, COVID has forced us to move to Zoom and Skype, and it's very frustrating because even with the best of internet speeds, there is always a lag. So you have to put up with it. It's very frustrating at times, right? Sometimes there is audio issues, sometimes, but I think it's not too bad. As I said, it's a good substitute because if you don't teach, it's not that most of them will practice every day for 2 hours. Most kids have been home since end of February, early March. So I make it a point to let the parents and the moms and the dads know, a minimum expectation is 1 to 2 hours. Now that you have the time, there's nothing else to do. You don't have homework, it's for minimal homework. So I hope this all gets resolved with the vaccine being developed, or at least antibodies being there in the next, I would say in the early part of 2021. I can't wait to get back and for normalcy to be restored. And, I guess I'm speaking for almost every human being in this earth. So,
Yeah, I think yeah, we're all getting adjusted to the new normal and trying to just cope up.
yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So, there are so many programs which are going on for classical music, maybe in USA or India. So, do you think students should go and participate in these online programs, encourage them into different programs? Many channels, many people are doing it.
Absolutely. And there are two things, right? Remember I said the number of platforms or channels has increased exponentially. So it is not as difficult to get a slot for a child to perform, right? So that is one part of it, but we have to be absolutely sure that parents and teachers get this. Just because you perform doesn't really mean anything. Really, right? Yeah, you can sing a song there, but what have you achieved is the question, right? Usually what I see is, oh, my kid performed here and she's achieved it. You have to get out of that and say, oh, she had an opportunity to perform, which means that she has to learn more, she has to practice more. As long as those things are being done, I think these channels and opportunities are a wonderful way to keep the energy and the encouragement alive. But that is what it is. Don't forget what the underlying fundamentals are.
Yeah, true. So, where do you see yourself in future after achieving so much in your life?
So let me rephrase it. I never feel I've achieved anything. Okay, and I'm just saying it because there is so much that I know that I have not done yet, and or I don't do very well, and I'm very open about it, and I share this with a lot of people, right? What is next steps is, as I said, I have a roadmap that I think I should be on, both professionally and musically. The musical journey seems to be very far, so I have, it is miles and miles and miles. There is so many new kirtanams that are on my list of to-dos, which I haven't gotten to yet. There is so many ragams I would like to play more effectively, so many more provide accompaniment for people I listen to a lot. There is so much to do. Teach and make sure that you have a critical set of students who can take that knowledge forward for the future generations, right? It's very important. Keep music alive, because each of us have multiple avenues to de-stress, music being one of them for me. There are multiple avenues, and if you can, and it's very effective, right? I have students who learned with me 20 years ago who say that unless there is music going on, they cannot concentrate, right? So that to me is success, because I've made a tangible improvement or a substantiative difference in somebody's life. I mean, small but very effective. So make sure that I can make a difference, one student, one person at a time, I think. And professionally, it's always fun. As I was telling you, I've been very fortunate and lucky to work across a gamut of, be it technologies, industries, or be it what, right? And it's ever changing, right? There is what I did in 2010 doesn't even exist. What I did in 2018 is getting phased out. So depending on what your likes, and I'm a technology geek, so try to work on things that excite me, and spend more time with my kids because they are growing up. My daughter is already in universities. My son will be going to the university next year, so want to make sure that I spend more time, make both of them play the violin and sing. In fact, I have asked Sahib to play a song with me. In fact, I'm going to rephrase it. He will be playing and I will be following him. That way, I
Yeah,
put some pressure on him to make sure he does it right. Right.
yeah, yeah. I
And
think
I didn't tell him actually what song we were going to play till about when we were getting on. I said, okay, why don't we play this? And he said that, and I said, no, it's, so I believe in the element of surprise. It's okay to, that is how you get better at things, right?
true, very true.
So,
So,
so that's, yeah.
so I think
Okay.
all our viewers are waiting for Sahid to sing. So Sahid Shankar, he's been learning violin from past 10 years and he's in his 12th grade. So we welcome you, Sahid, to our live show and request you to play. And your
So what
father,
I was to play? So let me turn on the Shruti box and let me know if you can see us. So we are going to play a small Kirtanam, the Ragam Hemavati. It is an Aditalam. So I don't know how we are doing on time, Bhavna, but I'll play a small 30-second Ragam. Aditharam. Okay, very short and sweet one. Ni Sari Sati is the words for the song.
That was just divine and phenomenal and beautiful, really. Thank you so much for
Thank
doing
you.
this.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So, viewers, yeah. So, you would like to speak something to our viewers?
Sorry, you cut off, Bhavana. What
Yeah.
did you say?
So, would you like to say something to our viewers?
All I would say is, firstly, thanks for the opportunity, and be good students of music. Um, don't define success as a singular song. It is a journey. It takes time. Accept failures and never stop learning. That's the only thing I would say. Never ever stop learning. There is enough for all of us to learn for at least 10 generations. So don't ever feel you know anything, because I can assure you, you don't know, right? So keep the spirit alive and keep learning. Those are only the words of wisdom if I can share with all the viewers. Thank you.
We are very thankful to Sahit also for joining us and showcasing his talent. That was really phenomenal, Sahit.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm really honored to share the screen with you, sir, and we thank you for coming to our channel and talking to us about your journey. So, viewers, keep watching SCube TV for more such shows. Thank you.
Thank you.